On the line with us right now, and kind of visually here as well, is a good friend of the show, Paul Dayco. He's the National Training Manager at Huawei Canada. Paul, I love chatting with you. I think we've become these, like COVID friends over the past couple of years. Well, even though COVID has only been, 4 months now. But
something that we don't, Mark?
Yeah, well, we met last year at a Huawei event when the P40 Pro was released, and we hit it off. We talked tech for quite some time, and we've had Paul on a couple times. And I love talking about this device, and we did do an interview a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to bring Paul back on, Mitchell, because there's stuff to talk about. That we can be talking about this probably for the next year or so till the next generation comes out, right, Mitchell?
Well, absolutely. I just wanted to touch on one thing here because this is something that a lot of our listeners, a lot of our more tech-savvy listeners already know, but some of them may not know. So, Mark, and by the way, Paul, welcome. We're gonna get to you and all your wonderfulness in a second. But if somebody had asked me or asks me, okay, we have these questions. What if you had to pick pick your favorite child kind of scenario? So if somebody said to me, okay, over the last 3 to 4 years, let's just say over the last 3 years, what mobile device company has innovated more than any other? The average person that is not maybe well-schooled or just, knows about a couple of things might say, oh, it's definitely the iPhone, but it is not Apple. It is not Google, and it is not Samsung. I wouldn't even hesitate and say Huawei. And when you look on the design side, design ethic, hardware, innovations on camera technology, screen technology. So what a few years ago may have been a little bit of a secret, especially here in North America, it's no secret anymore. When you're looking for innovation and features, so you're looking at, and now, of course, you're looking at the P40 Pro, right? That was for you, Mark, by the way.
Oh, that was for me? I was waiting for Paul because, he's sitting there staring at it. But yeah, no, the P40 Pro, which is in my hands, and good luck getting it out of my hands. It's one of these devices. It's now available in Canada at participating retailers and carriers. Right now, you can get the Watch GT2 with it, 50 gigs of cloud storage. What blows my mind and what really blew my mind the first time I laid my hands on this device was obviously the camera. And for a smartphone camera to get the title of best camera smartphone, a DxO mark of 128, that's pretty impressive, right, Paul? That's not just throwing out random stats here. This is a prestigious award.
Of course, and for me, obviously, this is not, for us, it's not an accident. We've been working with Leica. As you know, the full name of this device is the Huawei P40 Pro, co-engineered with Leica. And that is, that's a big mouthful to say, but it also speaks a lot to our partnership and our meaningful innovation that we want to do with our devices, especially in the camera space, where obviously it's a big, huge consideration. Every time someone wants to buy a phone, it's always going to be about the camera. And that's the first thing they do is launch that camera.
Yeah, no, it's quite funny. Yeah. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul, because, you heard my glowing introduction, right? And that was true. Even if you were not here, that would have been my answer. And that's how we feel about the device and the company in general. So seeing how over the last few years, Huawei has grown and the reputation and everything that comes with it. People know these devices. They look forward to the releases. How much has that changed your day-to-day from going to a company, at least in North America, that maybe was not as well known to now everyone can't wait to see what are they doing next? A little more pressure? Does it change how you guys do things a little bit? How is your life changed in the big picture with Huawei?
Well, the biggest thing for me right now is that people can actually pronounce the company that I work for now.
Huawei.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard so many iterations. Huawei, Hawaii. I've heard so many iterations of this already. Right. And there is a lot of pressure, especially for trying to figure out what we're going to be putting into our next smartphone. Now, obviously, with the P40 Pro, it just came out. It's a culmination of a lot of people's work. And really just checking in to see what people are actually looking and using their smartphone for. And, luckily for us, we have a great camera, a great screen. We've heard everyone want to talk about the screen. So we obviously upped the ante on the screen. It's now a 90 hertz screen. The battery is incredible. It lasts me way over a day and it charges really fast. So it's something that we're really, really very proud to release, especially here in Canada right now.
Yeah, that fast charger, I must say, when I plugged that in for the first time on the last generation device and just watched the counter just move, I'm like, that was pretty impressive. It's hard to demonstrate the quality of something without getting your hands on it. It really is. That's why, we do videos, and that's why we do these interviews, to try and portray as much as we can. But I really do encourage people to head on into their retailers to try this out and try out that camera, because I think once you do that, it's like one of these things where once your hands on, you're not going to turn back. That's going to be an instant purchase. But one of the biggest feedback I'm getting from a lot of people, and I think it's one of the reasons I wanted to get on the line with you today, Paul, was because, for reasons that we're not even going to get into now, access to the Google App Store or the Play Store is not as readily available on this device. But there are ways to get all the content that you want on this device, and I don't want people to think that this is going to be a detraction from using this phone, because if you're coming from an Android device, right there, this phone clone, which will help download all the apps that you're used to and help copy all that content over your device. If you're using an iOS device and you're going to this device, then you have to put a little bit more effort into it. So I wanted to dive into some of the ways that people can get those apps, and there's a couple different ways they can go, and I'll let you walk us through them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, as you've already outlined, I mean, it's so much easier right now than ever before to actually download the apps that you love on your P40 Pro and your Huawei mobile or HMS device, as we call it. The one thing you already mentioned was phone clone. Phone clone is usually the first step. Actually, when you first set up your device, you actually already see phone clone being there. And what that does is that it just transfers. It's in the name, right? It just clones your phone from your previous device onto your new P40, whether it be an Android device, another Huawei device that you had prior, or any kind of or iOS device going forward. It's just a few really simple steps. It's all built into our device. It's one of the first things you see as a setup screen, and it will be able to transfer the majority of your apps from your previous device to your new one.
Now, and this is an important thing. I mean, and by the way, I just want to jump in here a second, Marc. Paul, this is a really big deal. People think it's a small thing. It's really not, because when you look at devices, especially when you want someone to switch from one ecosystem to another, if you want to get customers to give up their Samsung, their iPhone, their any of their Android devices to come to Huawei, you think about barrier to entry. And barrier to entry is, people don't like change. Well, how can I do this? So coming up with a smooth way of doing this, or making it sort of user-friendly, that's kind of a huge deal, because that's one of the things you look at and say, hey, we want people to be able to come here easily and not think, what's going to stop me? So looking at those barriers to entry and making it simple must have been a huge priority on your part to make it an easy transition.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we've been working on, just try to find that nice, quick few steps to kind of get into everything. And not just phone clone, will just transfer your apps, also your contacts, every phone number you have, your documents, your photographs and videos. You get that message every so often you see on social media. It's like, I got a new phone, text me your number. That's that I always I stop at that and I wow, why don't you just, use phone clone?
Yeah.
Silly people.
The app gallery is Huawei's official app store. And before I let you kind of dive into it, I want to remind people that Huawei, just because it's kind of a new name to us, even though we're still learning it in Canada, you guys have been around for a very long time. So this app gallery is not something that's new today. You've got 420 million plus active users on this, ecosystem. So talk to us about the app gallery.
Well, the app gallery is, like you said, our official app delivery platform for Huawei devices. And you're right, it's been around for a very, very long time. And all the users that we have on there. The great thing that I love about this, and honestly, again, taking into account what people are actually looking for, is the amount of security and protection that we have going on here. We call it the four levels of security and for detection, to ensure the apps, all the ones that are featured on App Gallery, are safe and downloadable and easy to use. The great thing about the apps that are on App Gallery is that it will work 100% with your devices, and they're open to a lot of the different APIs that we have with our devices to make those apps actually better. Like, for example, they'll be able to get into the camera API. So they'll be able to kind of use the camera to the best of its ability instead of taking pictures out of potatoes. There's a lot of local apps that we actually have on there too. There's actually a dedicated local, we call it a global team, a global and local team here, in Canada, where we're getting, native app developers from Canada to be on here. And we work with some partnerships with a bunch of different places like Wattpad, the Weather Network, Stingray Music, and games from Behavior Interactive. We have a whole lot of different things that we got going on. And we're always going to keep on growing, obviously, with this, because we keep on adding more apps, hundreds of apps, essentially, per week. And we're growing really fast.
Now, finally, if there's an app that you haven't found in the app gallery, there is something called Pedal Search that comes pre-installed in this device. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a way to kind of aggregate other ways to get apps and discover apps that are out there. For example, I was looking for Outlook. I found Outlook on Pedal Search, and it searched multiple sources, almost like app repositories that are obviously compatible, and it checks for compatibility with your device first before it even allows you to install it, right?
That's right. I mean, another part of this thing is a huge part about this part of it. This is security. Security is a huge part of all this, and that's why we took some time to create something called Pedal Search, which is going to evolve into something a lot more. But as of right now, it's what we're using here as another way for our customers to get the apps that they love, and it's as easy as literally typing in the app that you're looking for on your Pedal Search icon. There's even a widget you can install on top of your home screen. You can type in anything. You can type in, I don't know, Snapchat, for example, and Snapchat will show up everything that you need to show up on there. It will download it for you, and it will even update those apps for you as well. It keeps a list of all the different apps you have, and it will update them when you need to update them. It goes through about 10 different repositories for third-party apps. Again, all of them scanned before coming in, and there's so many different things that are happening that we can do to make it easier for our customers to start using the apps they love.
Paul, is there anything in the pipeline that you could talk about kind of publicly about how this... No, I'm just curious about, specifically to this device, on things that we can expect down the road, because with every ecosystem, with every kind of iteration of these kind of phones, there's always some fun stuff that comes down the road, which is why I never want to give mine away.
Well, again, with that kind of glowing response, Mark, with that going on, obviously the biggest thing we want to do is to have our customers being able to use their devices properly, and this is the reason why we're doing a lot of focus on getting these apps and getting up to the point, and getting, which I feel that we are right now, going into the market. We have all the different things that we have kind of in place to make sure that the apps. And obviously, the ecosystem thing is a big part of this, and that's one thing we're also working on as well, is building that app ecosystem and building that ecosystem of products that will leverage each other's strengths to become really just one cohesive and seamless experience for people to use at home.
Absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off. I had to tell you one thing, because I'm going to forget, because I'm elderly now. I've reached that age where I will start forgetting stuff. I'll jump in.
I can vouch for that.
All right. You didn't have to say that, Mark. We all know it's true. Paul, I apologize for cutting you off. I had to pay you guys a compliment, a huge compliment. I didn't want to forget to do this before, while we still have you. And that has to do on the software. That has to do with the software side. Mark and I talk about this all the time. Regardless of what amazing hardware you have, if you don't have the software to run the hardware properly, you may as well not have the good hardware at all. And, when you look, I'm looking at the specs right now with, the rear camera, the 50 megapixel ultra vision camera, and of course, designed with Leica, and front facing 32 megapixel camera, and all this great hardware. But the fact is, and you kind of mentioned it, Mark is like teasing me with the phone right now, because I don't have one. We'll talk about that later, Paul. But, you talked about it a little bit with the camera. We've seen other companies that put together these amazing pieces of hardware. They don't necessarily all match, and they're not necessarily congruous, but they're all in there. And while the specs are there, the software is not there to commensurately run that fantastic hardware. That is not the case with the P40 Pro or any actually of the Huawei phones that I've used in the past, where the cameras, as good as the hardware is, the software also works. And people don't realize the important role, especially in cameras, that the software plays to make that hardware run, especially on a phone. So you guys have done an amazing job on the software side to make sure that those, the specs, the hardware specs aren't just bullet points, but they're actually really beautifully functional. And that's something you don't see all the time, unfortunately.
And that's one thing that we get. Again, that's another part of our strategy, is to pretty much make the best devices that we can ever possibly get for our customers into people's hands. And where we have great hardware, which, as we kind of work with a lot of different great people, and we have a lot of great people working with us internally to make that happen, especially in the software side. We do have it is built on top of the Android platform, but it's all the different tweaks and the different things. It's almost like the toppings you would put on a pizza, or the toppings you put in a sandwich, to make that just
that much better.
More delicious.
Yeah.
I love a good food analogy, Paul. You got me right in the stomach. Thank you.
Let me remind people. Go ahead, sorry.
Going back to what you were saying, Mark. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we have coming down the pipeline. Again, what we want to do is make the customer experience easier for us, for our customers, and working and developing this stuff, our ecosystem with the devices. But obviously, we have a lot of great innovative things that we have down the pipeline, hardware-wise. As you know, we kind of teased and we kind of showed around our foldable Mate XS device. Which is still turning heads when people kind of use it and people kind of see it around. We're experimenting with different kind of sizes and different kinds of different things. And that's the one thing about Huawei that I really, really enjoyed working here, is that there is this relentless pursuit for meaningful innovation, which fuels what we do, from a day to day. A question was asked earlier about how things have changed since the successes of everything that we have, and it just adds so much more pressure. And just to know that, but we know that we're on the right track, and that's what the important part about this is. The right track to get the customer base, with the things that they require for their day to day, and this ever changing post-COVID or current COVID environment.
Paul, again, guys, P40 Pro and the P40 series available at Canadian retailers, of course, throughout the country. Check it out, and for a limited time, you can get the Watch GT2 and that 50 gigs of cloud storage. A pleasure talking to you, as always. We hope to have you on again soon.